Chapter 14. Swings and Roundabouts. Fedor's evening had been anything but fortunate. "Excuse me," another person rudely pushed past him. But the startled woman took one look at the scowling young man in a flimsy raincoat and tight-fitting shirt, brandishing a teddy bear, and veered away, ignoring him. Fedor swore, colourfully, in Russian, and at great length. It was most satisfying. My, oh my, someone's not in a party mood. He turned to find a woman staring at him. She carried a sweets tray looped over her shoulders, her eyebrows arched. "You speak Russian?" She nodded. Fedor had the good grace to blush. "I'm sorry, I didn't think anyone would understand me." The woman smiled. "You'd be surprised. Most of the vendors here are from Little Odessa." Fedor looked blank. "Brighton Beach?" Still nothing. "You're not from around here, are you?" He shook his head. "Do you have the time, please?" The woman took the weight of the tray with one arm and twisted her wrist. 9:25. "Thank you," Fedor said, turning away. "Hey," the woman called after him. "Here, on the house." She tossed a bag of fizzy cola bottles his way. "Maybe that'll sweeten your mood." Fedor looked at the bag of sweets, surprised by the gift. Tucking them into his pocket and feeling a bit better, he once again braved the crowd. "Van Sant?" Sam blinked in surprise. Stopping, he stared around. "It is you!" "Call!" Sam was dumbstruck at the sight of the burly rugby captain. "What the hell are you doing here?" they asked in unison, then burst out laughing. Sam began. "We—" Colin stopped when they did it again. "Come on, Col." A girl was pulling at his sleeve, oblivious to the exchange. "We're going to lose her." Her voice was drowned by the noise of the carnival, and she did not look back, her attention fixed on someone in the crowd. "But it's—" Colin tried to get the girl's attention. "Sam!" Joe called out as he tried to keep up with Veronique, who was already disappearing in the throng. The boy stood still, unsure whom he should follow. Sam turned to his school friend and shrugged. "Go. We'll find you later." Big Col waved him off with a grin. "Cool." Sam was relieved at being spared an awkward explanation. "Who's that?" Joe asked, when he and Sam caught up with Veronique. "A guy from school." Sam shook his head. "That's so weird." He caught a glimpse of another familiar face and pointed to Fedor. "Look, there's Chatterbox." The group found a quiet spot to swap stories. "So we only have one of the 3 crests we need?" Sam felt deflated. Joe was staring at the Russian and his bear. "Hold the phone." He grabbed the pink teddy and flipped it over. Embroidered on its furry rear was the McLeod family crest. "Now that's just lazy." Fedor shook his head. "I can't believe I didn't notice that. Sorry, guys." "Don't apologize." Sam's mood brightened a little. "At least you've not returned empty-handed. We're still one short, though, thanks to me." The thought of the fortune-teller still troubled him. Fedor's stomach rumbled. He dug in his pockets for the bag of sweets. "Ooh, cola bottles." Veronique licked her candy-floss-encrusted lips. Sam laughed when Fedor tossed her the bag with a sigh. "Much obliged," she said, fussing with the ribbon tie. The boys began examining the stuffed toys, pressing, prodding and squeezing them, flicking the plastic eyes of their helpless captives. Gentlemen," Veronique cooed. She was waggling Fedor's bag of sweets at them. "Not now, V," Sam huffed. "You have them." "Ahem," she coughed, waving the bag closer. Hanging from the curly purple ribbon that held the clear bag closed was a small plastic crest. Joe clapped his hands. "That's 3! Jenny was right. She really had made it easy." Fedor felt something hard in the arm of the bear and ripped the appendage off. Probably with more aggression than the situation called for, a cloud of stuffing launching into the air. "Mummy!" Sam saw a little girl pointing in horror as Fedor dug around in the severed limb. "What's that man doing to the teddy?" The mother fixed Fedor with a murderous look, ushering her daughter away. Fedor found a small plastic tube. There was a piece of paper curled up inside. "It says Carla." He handed the others the scrap. Sam had found another lump in the back of the gorilla and was picking at the stitches. Fedor snatched the toy and tore it open. Another scream signaled the traumatized youngster was still within sight. Magical! Aha! Veronica tipped the sweets onto her lap, licking her sugar-coated fingers. She read the final clue aloud. Madam! They all mouthed the words. Magical Madam Carla, Joe ventured. "Excuse me," Sam accosted a nearby clown. "Where will we find, Magical Madam Carla?" The clown hiked a thumb over his shoulder. "Past the rides. Nasty old carny caravan. You can't miss it." "Thanks. Well then, let's not keep the mysterious Madam C waiting." They kept a single file, slipstreaming behind Fedor. The noise of the circus changed as they searched, the roar of animals giving way to electronic music, robotic cackles, and jubilant screeches. The big wheel shimmered above the merriment, surrounded by flashing merry-go-rounds, stomach-churning cups, and the ever-popular Haunted Mansion. Joe's eyes lit up as he slowed down, earning a foot in the rear. A group of scruffy circus children blocked their path. Shouting and swearing, they traded kicks and insults. Most patrons refused to make eye contact with them, muttering in distaste. Fedor ploughed straight through. A gangly upstart squared up to him, but a deft shove coupled with a foot behind the boy's ankle sent him crashing to the ground. Two others took his place, and soon found themselves in a heap beside their companion. Sam watched the rest of the group step aside, sniggering at their hapless comrades. At the corner of the fairground, where the coloured lights dimmed and the cacophony of sound faded, was a wooden caravan. Capturing the essence of a long-forgotten time, it would have once been a spectacle to behold, with its spindle wheels, ornate gables, and finely worked trim. Now, however, the paint was chipped and faded, the wooden shutters hung askew, and the wheels were warped. Sam eyed the rotting staircase leading to the door. Above it, in looping, swirling letters, the sign said, Magical Madam Carla. "This must be it," he said, turning to the others. Veronique pushed him forward. "Go on, then. Age before beauty." Sam placed a foot on the first step. It groaned, but held, as did the next. Reaching up, he tapped his knuckles on the mottled blue and purple door. Nothing. He turned and looked back, shrugging. Joe was jiggling, and Fedor put a hand on his shoulder. "Do you need the toilet, or is it excitement?" The boy cocked his head, thinking, little of both. Sam drew back after knocking, but the door clicked and swung open, emitting a cloud of scented smoke. He choked on the incense. Come in, a voice called. The door creaked as he stepped inside, the others following closely at his heels. The interior of Madame Carla's caravan was indeed magical. In the centre of the small room, a squat round table draped with a beaded cloth hosted the obligatory crystal ball, clasped in a bronze hand. Mismatched rugs covered the floor. Their thick and colourful weaves faded to patchy mottled hues. Sam marvelled at the array of chimes and dream catchers that swung from the rafters. The walls were lined with shelves and trunks, rows of books and piles of trinkets. Ah, at last! Their host ushered them into the confined space with great sweeping motions. Old Carla thought you would leave her waiting all night. she chided. "Sit, please." They complied, Joe suppressing a wave of claustrophobia. "So, you're our hope for the future, are you?" Carla held them with a piercing gaze, her fierce grey eyes serious beneath her dramatic gypsy makeup. She wore layers of flowing silk, and a thick crocheted shawl was draped over her thin shoulders. Her fingers, ears, and arms jangled with gaudy golden jewellery. "Strange auras," the old woman muttered. "Troubled paths, many twists and turns, old Carla sees. Brave you must be, very brave. And true to one another." "Is she pretending to be Yoda?" Joe whispered. "Definitely AFK, more like." Sam muffled a laugh. The gypsy ignored them and looked at Veronique. "You follow the cards. Don't follow them too closely, for the hand that holds them is not always your own." She paused, chewing her bottom lip, looking at something in the distance. "You're all here to learn from old Carla." She straightened with a flourish, sending her orchestra of jewellery into a jangling concerto. "To learn of paths and doors, gateways both near and far." They peered at one another out of the corners of their eyes. "The stones you wear," she reached forward to flip the crucifer from under Joe's shirt, holding it between her leathery fingers, "are keys, not only to the mind, but also to many doors." Joe looked down, leaning away from her. The gypsy's hygiene left a lot to be desired. "You need to learn how to recognize them." Her chipped lilac nails clacked against the stone. "Why do we need doors?" Sam asked. "Can't we just fold?" "Been everywhere, have we? Know the Sumerian temple, do you? Been to the mountain kingdom, seen the shimmering streets of the Aztec city? Fold there you can?" Sam shook his head. "Then doorways you will need. You must place all of the stones before the gate of the gods." Her serious expression changed, and she smiled, exposing chipped teeth. "So, old Carla will show you." The gypsy scattered a handful of small bone tiles on the table, all etched with an archaic script. 7 runes there are, 7 signs to mark the way to places both near and far. Veronique, drawn to the mysterious old woman and her sing-song manner, moved closer. Joe also peered at the table. "Where will these markings be?" "The frame is the border. The border holds the key. Look to the frame, for it will be plain for all to see." Ugh. Fedor could not help himself. Their host either did not hear or chose to ignore the derision. Joe probed deeper. "Are there only 7 destinations?" The gypsy fixed the boy with another toothy smile. 7 there are, and 7 there will be, but only 6 are plain to see." "Meaning 1 is hidden?" "Not all doors should have a key." Sam was getting frustrated. "What opens the doors?" She looked at him, irritated by the interruptions. "Clear the mind and find your peace. The keys will do the rest." "It has to be the crucifer. Let's give it a go." Joe's enthusiasm was now a good 2 steps ahead of his common sense. Old Carla clapped her hands and swung around, drawing back a curtain to reveal an engraved wooden arch set against the far wall of the caravan. Sam let out a low whistle. The craftsmanship was impressive. Every inch had been worked and refined with meticulous precision, creating a flowing, winding sculpture that wrapped the empty space with regal grace. In the center of the arch, the flowing lines culminated in a rune, and the wood had a luster that almost shone in the gloom. Veronique was in awe. "Do they all look like this?" "Doors come in all shapes and sizes." Madame Carla's gaze caressed the arch. "But no 2 are the same." "Where does this one go?" Fedor asked. The gypsy winked. "Now, that is for old Carla to know, and for you to find out." She grabbed Joe's wrist, Clear the mind and find your peace. The key will do the rest. He looked at Sam, who shrugged and nodded towards the door. Joe got up and approached the arch. Closing his eyes, he reached into his shirt. The cruiser tingled. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. The moment his foot passed through the arch, Sam saw the air shimmer and his friend disappear. The old gypsy clapped her hands with delight and caressed the side of the carving. "Now you!" She wiggled her fingers at Veronique. "Nicky the Explorer." Moments later, she too was gone, and Sam was left with Fedor. "Very good. Not without skill," magical Madame Carla said. "Your turn, my large friend." She shooed Fedor from his seat. He ducked when his head encountered the nest of chimes in the rafters. "Do not despair," Sam heard her tell him quietly. "So proud he is of you. More than you will ever know." Fedor looked down at the old woman, shocked. "Go on." She offered no further explanation. He dug his hand into his pocket. It was empty. He turned to Sam, his face pale. "What?" "It's gone. The cruiser, it's not in my pocket." Sam swore. "What was it doing in your pocket? It's meant to be around your thick neck." "This stupid shirt, it was so tight it was digging in. So I put it in my—" His face darkened. "That thieving little bastard," he swore, and turned for the door, fists clenched. We'll be right back," Sam apologized to magical Madame Carla. "Duck!" she shouted after him. "What?" Sam muttered, shaking his head as he leapt down the stairs and almost slipped on the dewy grass. His friend was heading towards the rides. Then Sam realized what had happened. One of the circus kids must have pickpocketed the cruiser during the scuffle. Sam broke into a run. He'd kill them. "Fedor!" Fedor knew who he was looking for. Fixing on his quarry, he charged. Never had a pack of juvenile miscreants disbanded with such haste. His target broke away from the group, and the Russian bolted after him. Sam swore as he watched the pair disappear between the rides. The thief was swift and nimble, but Fedor was at his heels, jaw set, face like thunder. They leapt onto a carousel, winding between faded plastic ponies and their bright-eyed riders. The boy snatched a glance over his shoulder before leaping and rolling under a tent. Fedor followed and almost got a foot in the mouth, for his quarry was waiting on the other side and stamped at his skull when it appeared. His sambo training saved him. Fedor caught the foot and twisted it, forcing the boy to buckle when he cranked the ankle further. Swearing, the little savage kicked free. The chase continued through the tent, past the animal cages, provoking roars and snarls in their flight. The boy burst from the tent and grabbed a torch from a fire eater. Turning, he thrust the business end at Fedor, who dropped and delivered a savage kick, catching the boy in the thigh. He staggered backwards, still brandishing the torch. "Hey, what the hell do you kids think you're doing?" the fire eater demanded. "Give me that!" He snatched back his absurd prop, aiming a cuff at the boy's head. The boy ducked, not taking his eyes from Fedor, then darted away again with the Russian in tow. Sam skidded into the back of the fire eater, sending them both sprawling. The torch landed on a hay bale that immediately went up in flames. Sam untangled himself. "Sorry!" he shouted, leaving the man swatting the flames with his coat. They had reached the other end of the fairground now, and the crowds were thinning. The thief, free of the masses, broke into a sprint, heading into the park and the safety of darkness. Sam was now only a few seconds behind them. "Fedor!" he shouted, chest burning. "Wait!" This could end so badly. The thief appeared to be circling back towards the circus, snatching glances over his shoulder as he wound between the trees. For the first time, They lost sight of him. Something caught Fedor squarely in the chest, and he fell heavily. Duck! Madame Carla's peculiar instruction echoed in Sam's mind, and he dropped to the ground. The baseball bat glanced off his shoulder and sent him spinning to the floor. They had run right into a trap. Two boys, armed with baseball bats, flanked the thief, who stood over Fedor, hands on hips and gasping for breath. The Russian lay crumpled on the ground with his arms around his chest. One of them kicked him in the back, laughing. I can't believe this ugly necklace is worth the trouble. The largest of the thugs began swinging his baseball bat, taking aim at Fedor's head. Do it, Mikey! They egged him on. Nut him! Yeah, come on, Mike. Batter up! No one will know. Crack him good! Mikey grinned, lifting his arms. Fedor was dimly aware of the bat looming above him. Unable to defend himself, he squeezed his eyes shut. I'm sorry, Papa. The blow never came. Mikey towered above Fedor, bat raised. The thief stood back, eyes glistening, holding the cruiser in his fist. The other boy's mouth hung open as he drew breath for a cheer, bat against his ankle. Sam lay on his back panting. His bruised shoulder was on fire. The bone flute was pressed to his lips. Sammy, don't leave me. This time, he could save someone. For a few peaceful moments, he stared at the tatters of Carefree Cloud, then swore. Another few seconds and, well, the possibilities did not bear thinking about. He rolled to his feet and stared at the frozen figures, then pulled away their bats and hit the thief's hand, causing his stiffened fingers to open and the cruiser to fall. Sam grabbed Fedor's ankles and pulled. You weigh a flipping ton. He stopped and chewed his lip. Putting the bats down, he went to work. When he was done, Sam stood back and blew the bone whistle. The thief let out a cry and fell to his knees, clutching his hand. Mikey swung at nothing, and toppled over, falling on top of the third boy, who suddenly found himself on the ground. All three were in their underwear. What the Mikey choked. Dude, get the hell off me! The other boy shouted, wriggling away. Where are your pants? Where are mine? What the hell is going on? You ladies want some privacy? Sam inquired. The baseball bats crossed over his shoulders. He couldn't help feeling a bit cocky. Mikey and his friend stopped squirming and looked up. I'm going to count to 5, Sam said, with open hostility. And, if you two are still here cuddling, I'm going to start swinging. Sound familiar? He made it to 3 before they disappeared around the nearest tree. And as for you, Sam dug his shoe spitefully into the ribs of the thief, still nursing his broken hand. I'd be gone before my friend regains his wits. He's liable to split you like a wishbone. He drew a line with the tip of the bat. Nuts to neck. The boy looked over to where Fedor had begun stirring and ran after his friends. Sam heaved a sigh of relief. Fedor was safe. He had saved him. You okay? Fedor grunted, probing his chest. Nothing broken. He wheezed. Teach me to go running blindly around corners. We all make mistakes. Luckily, we made this one together. He offered Fedor a hand. I don't know about you, but I've done enough sightseeing for one day. Let's get back to the door. By the time they staggered up the rotting wooden steps, the rides were slowing and the crowds thinning. The door was ajar. Books, trinkets, and broken chimes lay scattered around. Trunks were overturned and shelves broken. The gypsy's table was on its side. The crystal ball damaged, viscous fluids seeping between the floorboards. Sam swore. Madame Carla? Unsurprisingly, there was no reply. The curtain that had covered the mysterious wooden arch was torn and scorched. The portal appeared unharmed. What do you think? Fedor muttered. We have to use it. Sam handed Fedor his cruiser. You first. He flipped one of the bats and offered the grip. Just in case. Bade watched the sandy-haired boy follow his friend through the ancient portal. Rising from the shadows, he continued to examine the wreckage. The caravan was in a state of turmoil when he had arrived, a final flash of light streaking under the door as he mounted the steps. Inside, the incense-laden air was charged with static, smouldering scorch marks in the wood giving off an unpleasant scent. Singed feathers and scraps of burnt paper still floated to the floor. Neither the gypsy nor her assailants were anywhere to be seen. He made a quick pass around the room before walking back to the door. Get me Gabriel, Pandora. He peered into the darkness beyond the fairground. One moment, please, his AI said. A few seconds later, the call connected. Bade? Yes, I'm here. Someone found Carla. Probably Harbinger looking for Aura. They're both gone. There was a long pause. Is the door intact? Yes, 2 of D'Angelo's kids just used it. Did they? They shouldn't have been there in the first place. He paused. I need to speak to Salvador. He's not keeping these children very safe. Make sure no one else comes or goes. I'll send the Silent Knight to retrieve the door. It's no longer safe there. Head back when they're done. Will do. Bade did not notice the emerald eyes peering up at him from between the floorboards.